there, my name's Jan Radu and I'm from stampingelegance.com. I am an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator located in the Vines in Western Australia. Thank you for joining me today on my channel. If you haven't already, I would love for you to subscribe and give me a thumbs up if you like this video, and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any future videos that I post. So today I am sharing this great suite. This is the Hey Sports Fan suite, and it is from our JJ mini catalogue, January to June 2022. And I have a baseballer in my family. My 17-year-old plays, and my kids went through T-ball. We've always been around the sport and absolutely still follow it and love it. So when this came out, I could see straight away I absolutely had to have it. But of course, since I have been playing around with the suite and the products in it, I've realized there are also lots of different things that you can do. It's a really versatile suite. I would suggest you check out my Instagram or my Facebook at Stamping Elegance, and you'll see all of the projects I've been sharing, with a few very sports related projects, but a few others that are quite surprisingly not anything to do with sports. So check that out. I'll pop my social media addresses up here so that you know where to find me. So this is the card that we will be making today. This is a favorite layout of mine when I want to show off a particular DSP. And in this suite, the DSP is absolutely gorgeous. So I have made this card in our Australian colours, green and gold. That's the colours of our national team in baseball as well. And you'll see the actual card base is made from a sheet of DSP. And this is the favorite way of mine to decorate the inside of a card. So if it's a normal card base, I'll put a DSP panel and then a really nice stitched rectangle there with my greeting and just a little bit of room for my tos and froms. Sometimes a whole card inside of a card is a little bit intimidating. What do you write in there? So I find this way it limits the space that I need to fill, and I can say just what I want to say to my card recipient. So this cute pocket card comes with two little pockets here. So this one at the back, I've just made a little removable ticket with "You're amazing." That's a home run. This is die cut from the DSP pack in the suite. And then this is also die cut from the DSP, and that's just a cute little general admission with a tear off admit one ticket too. And I'll show you how I've put this sentiment together. I've got a little bit of the fan twine, so just showing you what these ones are. So this is the fan baker's twine, and that's the evening evergreen that I've got tied around there. And I've used the little resin stars from the Resin Stars embellishment pack. The stamp set is the Your Biggest Fan stamp set, and that goes with the sports event dies, and this is how the dies come packaged from Stampin' Up, but I almost immediately always set mine up this way. So I've got my stamps on one side, I add a magnetic sheet which is self-adhesive, and that I just grab from, in Australia, Red Dot or Reject Shops sell them as well, lots of different places, and of course all the art supply stores sell them too. I set my dies up inside. I label them with the name of the die and the number of dies as well, so that I can keep track that I haven't missed anything. And that just keeps it nice and secure in there. So the DSP, I've almost decimated this pack. There's not an awful lot left. So that's the Hey Sports Fan 12 by 12 DSP, and I'll show you some of those patterns as we go later. I'll actually link to a video up here where I do a bit of a quick introduction on everything that's in the suite, so you can check that out. And I've gone ahead and die cut a whole bunch of the DSP out. So I've got all my tickets and labels ready to go, which just makes my crafting a little bit easier and a little bit faster. So I have this very well-worn piece of copy paper that I created a template for this card a long time ago. I've used it many times. I'm calling it a double pocket fun fold. And it's just one A4 sheet of paper. So this is copy paper that I've created my template out of. I've got some scores, one cut, a little note about which pattern is going to be the main visible pattern and some indications on where to put the tape. So let me talk you through how to start with a DSP sheet and end up with this folded template. So the sheets that I'm using today, I've chosen this pattern. I'm going with the same color scheme as my Australia baseball card, and I've got this vintage bat and ball on one side, my favorite bumblebee pattern on the other side, and then just one coordinating print, which I've gone with the diamonds. So that's really going to be the 3 patterns that we're going to be using. The first step is to cut the 12 by 12 sheet down to an A4 sized piece. So I'll bring in my paper trimmer. If your print is directional, you want it to be in the right direction as you're looking at it. I'm cutting to 21 centimeters. And then our cardstock, or our normal A4 sheet, is 29.7. And that gives me my piece of DSP that I need for my card base. So I'm going to firstly score it in half at 10.5 centimeters. Don't score too heavily when you're working with DSP because it can sometimes tear the paper. I'm going at 14.85. 14.85 is half of our A4 sheet, but as you can see, I've got a little piece of washi tape just marking that spot for me, so I don't have to measure it all the time. So I'm going to score in half. Now, while I've got it here, because this is the right direction for me, I need to cut from the middle to the end on this side. So again, line it up at the half, which is also at the score mark. I'm going to use my trimmer blade and I'm going to pop it in at the halfway mark and then just push forward, and that gives me my half a sheet cut. We can go ahead and burnish those score lines. So if we just fold those in, trying to make sure we've got a nice lined up edge here. Isn't that bumblebee star just absolutely gorgeous? Okay, so I've burnished my score lines. Now the next step in my template, I've got this little hint here. Whichever pattern folds back will be the main visible pattern. So if I want my bat and ball to be the main visible pattern, this one needs to fold back. So I'm going to flip it over. And all I'm doing is essentially folding it into the score line. So I'm just going to fold that without pressing too hard on this side. I'm matching it up to my score line and I'm just going to pinch up here. So pinch up there at the corner, match the score line down here, and then I can start with my fingers and finish the burnishing with my bone folder. So that's that one. And on my template, the next piece is going to fold forward. Now you can eyeball how far forward you want this to be. It's roughly 2.5 centimeters. So I'm going to use my grid line up here. I'm going to line up my score line on the 0, and then I'm just going to fold in to about 2.5 centimeters. And just trying to get as straight a line as possible there. It doesn't need to be exactly 2.5 centimeters. As I said, you can eyeball it if you like. You're just going to end up with slightly different pocket fold ups on the other side. So now all we need to do is fold. So actually we start that way. So turn it over. Fold that one over, and you want to make sure you're nice and square here, and just again use your bone folder to square it all up. Then you're turning it over and folding backwards, and then you're tucking that one behind, and that is essentially your card base done. So So I really love the way that you've got the main print, you've got this lovely pop of colour there, and then when you open up, you've got that great coloured inside of your card, and we're just going to pop a rectangle in there for our writing panel, and away we go. So if you remember on my card here, I have got the twine around. So the first step that we need to do before we stick anything down is to wrap our twine, and that will keep everything in place. Before we do that, we're just going to put a little bit of tape there. I'm using tear and tape, but you can use Stampin' Seal or Stampin' Seal Plus, and that's just going to basically seal the bottom of our pocket. I'll bring my Take Your Pick tool in to help me with picking up the tape release paper. So if you haven't seen this before, it's got a couple of different tools that you can switch in and out, and it just really helps pick up that release paper nice and easy if you don't have nails. So we're going to fold that, and we're just going to make sure that's nice and lined up there. So now that has sealed our pocket in there. You can do some there as well, but by tying the twine, you really are sealing that pocket. So bringing in the Fan Baker's twine, and we're using the Evening Evergreen. I'm just going to leave that on the roll, and I'm just going to go around, let's say once, twice, and then make sure I've got enough to end up over here somewhere. I can cut that off. And now just adding some tension on there, just to try and get that nice and tight around about where you want it. And tie your half knot. I'm bringing in my reverse tweezers. So if you haven't seen these before, when they're at rest, they're clamped, and when you press them down, they're open. They can be really useful in helping you hold that little half knot while you tie a bow or tie the final knot there, and it just keeps the tension on without a third pair of hands. So once you tie that, you can remove that from there. I'm going to tie just one more knot, just so the knot's a little more prominent. And then we're not doing a bow, we're just snipping off those little ends. So we've just got the little knot there. Okay, so now that we've put our twine around that first panel, we can go ahead and stick that down here. So I have got my little handy, we just put in the same way. I've just got a piece of tape here and a piece of tape here, and that's going to hold the whole thing together. You can also pop a piece of tape underneath your flap just to keep things nice and tidy. Take that tear and tape release paper off. Does anyone else have a little cute little handy bin on their desk to put all these things, or do you just throw them on the floor? I do find having that little bin at hand makes it all a lot tidier in the craftermath, as I heard somebody call it the other day. So now when I'm popping these down, pick up, I'm just going to make sure I'm nice and square on that side. And then you can just burnish those sides down. So now we end up with two nice secure pockets on the front. Our twine is wrapped around, but you can't see it from inside. And our card base is coming together now. So next we're going to create our first little pocket inside. I'll bring in the stamp set and dies. We're going to use this large die here. Now, one of the great things that I love about this stamp set is it is compatible with our mini boss or our mini cut and boss machine. which is actually 20% off for the month of March. It's really handy for times like this, when you're at your craft desk and you don't want to have to get up to run something through the embossing machine. So you just need to make sure it's less than 3.5 inches wide, and we'll just pop that down there. Actually, I'm just going to trim that down just to make it a little easier to work with. So I've got my number 1 cutting plate, number 1 base, number 2 cutting plate. I will pop my piece of DSP down, my die on there. So you want to kind of line that up if you want your diamonds to be straight. And then when I'm popping my second cutting plate, I'm making sure that I'm actually giving them a really good staggering effect, and that will help it to run through the machine a lot smoother. There we go. So we've got our first tag, which is our diamond tag. This is what I love about the magnet sheet, is that you can easily pop your dies back in once you've finished with them, and that of course keeps your workspace a little tidier too. So the next thing we want to do on there, we'll bring this one back in, is we've got just a couple of little tags on there. I might just pop that there for a reference. So bringing in my copious amounts of die cuts, I'm looking for something like this one here. That's a home run. Aren't they glorious? Look at them all. We can do best day ever. You're out of this league. That's a bit cute too. What else have we got? Have we got a home run? I should have looked this one out beforehand. We'll just leave a couple out there and then we'll see where we go from there. So rather than, yeah, so I've done some stamping on this one. So you could actually just put you're out of this league and best day ever, something like that. I think we might go with that. That would be a bit cute. So just use some, you want to keep this quite flat because it is tucking in and out of the pocket. So I've decided not to use dimensionals on these bits here. I'm trying to get my Tombow started. Use the every little inch out of the bottle. So that one's just going to go something like that. And best day ever. Can go something like that. I love the collage type look of this set. So that's going to be our first ticket that goes in our largest pocket. That's very cute. And then pulling out, I'm going to go with the same one I used before, which is the general admission ticket, take me to the ball game, and that one's going to go in there. Actually, let me see if I've got a green one of that one. I think that would be even better. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Do I have a green one? Do I have a green one? I haven't, but I do have a green one of that one. I wonder whether I might do that. Have a play ball or the stars. We could even do both. We could do both in there. That's a bit cute. I really like that sort of full effect that you get when you tuck a few different things in there. So the next thing we are going to do is to do some stamping. So we're going to stamp the inside panel and attach that, and then I'm going to show you how I came up with those two tickets there. So to create my very vanilla panel for inside the card, I've used my rectangle stitch framelits and I've run those through the Big Boss, the Big Stampin' Cut and Boss machine, and I've used the largest framelit there. And we're just going to go with some Evening Evergreen ink. Now the colour in the suite is Bumblebee, and disclaimer, I never got around to buying Bumblebee and it's about to retire. So I have been using another retired colour, Hello Honey, which does tie in well enough. It's a little darker, so we'll go ahead and use that today too. But if you need a colour like this for your stash, I would order Bumblebee quick smart before the 3rd of May, before the new annual catalogue starts. So we're just going to stamp Happy Birthday in Evening Evergreen and these cute little line accent underneath. And use my Stampin' Seal just to pop that down on the inside of the card, and we're just going to center that top to bottom and left to right. I love the way that looks inside the card, having the stitched edge around the writing panel. So next, to create the other ticket, so I've got a scratch piece of Very Vanilla here. I'm bringing in my stamp, which is this largest label here, and I am going to stamp that in my yellow of choice. So just ink that up, stamp that, and just give it a little bit of time for that ink to transfer over to your cardstock. You'll get a more vibrant colour that way. Now I'm just going to show you how I've gone about splitting up this larger stamp, which as you can see is 1, Hope Your Day is a Grand Slam, and how I have put it across the labels in that way. So bringing in that larger stamp and just some basic sellotape, I'm just going to mask off the word slam, which we don't need at first. And you do need to make sure that you're masking off the whole stamp. You don't want to leave any there that can pick up the ink. So once that's all masked off like that, I'll bring in my Evening Evergreen. And I am still going to only try and ink up the parts of the stamp that I want to use, but that tape is just going to help me if I happen to go over at all. So then I can tear that tape off and just double check visually that you don't have any of that ink on that slam. I can see I haven't quite picked up enough over here, so I'm just keeping the slam well out of the way and just inking up my little line a little bit more. I'll bring this into me. Actually, I'm just going to bring in the Stampin' Pierce Matte, just to give me a little bit of extra cushioning when I'm stamping on here. And I'm going to stamp this to the top section of that label. Hope Your Day is a Grand. And as you can see there, we've just got our partial stamp. I'm going to give that a very good clean with my Simply Chamois. Make sure I've got all of that off. And now we can do the reverse. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and actually die cut that piece first. I think that might make it a little bit easier. So I can bring in the mini boss again. Oops. Grab that die. Just using a little bit of washi tape just to secure that one down. Just so that it doesn't move around when we put the second plate on top. As I said before, make sure those plates are nice and staggered. Any cracking is normal particularly if your plates are quite new. And now we have our ticket. I am just going to use my paper snips to cut off that bottom section of the ticket. I'll just ease off that perforation a little bit so that it separates, because I kind of want to keep that perforated look on the ticket. I do actually want you to be able to see that on the card. So now we can go ahead and stamp the second word that we need from our stamp, which is just the slam section. For those of you that don't know what a grand slam is, particularly in Australia, we're not huge on baseball here. A grand slam is when you've got loaded bases, so you've got runners on first, second and third, and then the batter steps up to the plate and hits a home run and gets himself as well as everybody on the bases home. That's a grand slam. It's pretty exciting when it happens. Doesn't happen all that often, particularly in junior baseball. So bringing in my evening evergreen, and I'm just going to ink up that word. Take off my tape. If you're lucky, it all comes off together. And if you're unlucky, it doesn't. Got a piece there, and that last important piece there. Let's just have a look and make sure everything is inked up the way we want it to be. This is the beauty of photopolymers. You actually can see how much ink you've got on your stamp. So again, I'm avoiding anywhere near that second word, but just adding a little more ink. I don't mind if it's a little bit grainy, because it's a bit of a vintage looking card anyway. And then I'm just going to line up the slam where I want it in the ticket. Give it a second for that ink to pass over. And there we go. And that's a way of using that ticket, which is supposed to be that way, in a little bit of a different direction. So I can bring my card back in. I'm just going to use some of our mini glue dots just for the back. Oh, I'm down to the last few. Just for the back of this one here. I can just pick those up onto my label. And I just want to position that under there somewhere like that. Pop that down. Just pull that knot down so that you can see what's going on there. And then on the slam, I have used dimensionals. I've just cut some of the edges of our dimensional sheet, and I'm just going to pop one of those lines on the top and the bottom. Put those in my trusty bin. And then I can position that over each side of the twine as I would like it to sit. So I'm just having a look there, and I just want it to be something like that. And the last step is to bring in our gorgeous Resin Stars embellishments. These are so pretty, and this is where the putty on the Take Your Pick tool comes in handy. I'll just pop that on there so I don't poke myself. So I'm going to get one large star, one small star, just offset that one like that, and another small star just down there somewhere like that. And that's the card for today. So it's a double pocket card. You've got a couple of cute little things in there, and then you've got a little best day ever, you're out of this league tag ticket in there, and then when you open it up you can write on your panel. And of course we do have our very vanilla where did I put those? We do have our very vanilla envelopes, which you might not have ever ordered before if your suite didn't, or your pattern paper didn't require very vanilla. So of course this card, once the tickets are popped in, will fit beautifully in our standard sized card. You could decorate the envelope. Actually, let's go ahead and do that. So there's the card and envelope for today. I hope you enjoyed that project. There's the one that I had created previously. So there's two different looks there. And those different looks just come from using different pieces of our designer series paper, depending on what you want to be showing on the outside and on the inside. So thanks very much. If you've stayed until the end of the video, I really appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed, I would love you to do that and give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment, and have a great crafty day.